So here this guy go. You know, and it's every time something that I'm watching goes off, you know, they always show White House discussion of war, Department of War, and they making war preparations and stuff like that. Nobody want to. I don't be wanting to hear that stuff and see that stuff. So it shouldn't be something that comes directly on. Like you keep putting it in front of you. Nobody want to see that stuff about what Trump and the people is talking about in the White House, the Department of War. You know, you should call it the Department of Peace. Because what you have to understand is that the residence of God is where peace is resides at. So wherever there's peace, that's where God is at. So if these people are constantly bickering back and forth and talking about war, these are people that's far away from God. So nobody want to hear that stuff. But you know, just so we're not constantly being bombarded with negativity, you do see some positivity. Here we have little Zay Osama. You see by the name, you know, and he got baptized, and this was like, whoa, yeah, this is good, you know. So we do see some goodness online. This is why I say, you know, online could be used for both good and for evil. It all depends on what people are being shown. If all you're being shown is negativity, then you'll think that online, just the online presence is all negative. But you know, I see some good stuff on there. I see some people feeding the homeless, buying the homeless garments, getting the homeless apartments, you know, doing you know, great works. And these things, you know, it breaks up the consistency of, you know, just the perpetual negativity. But this is something that's, you know, is worth noting, because you know, when I first encountered this particular person, you know, it was, you couldn't even associate him with anything good, you know. And you know, his music was all negative, you know, it was negative. And then you come online, and not only that, but you was going to speak on the necessity for, you know, spiritual baths, because you do hear and see people talking about spiritual baths online. And this is one thing that I do. You know, this is how I'm able to keep renewing myself through baths, through you know, cleansing not just my body, but you cleanse your mind, and that has an effect on everything around you. If your mind is clear, then you can focus more on anything that's hindering or trying to affect you negatively. So that's one of my secrets. If y'all wanted to know, I normally take baths, and when I take baths, it's the attention that I go in with. I go in there with the intention to renew, you know, everything. So you're not weighed down by anything from, you know, yesterday. So whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened last week, whatever happened last year, none of that stuff has any kind of bearing on me, because I'm being made new every time I go in the water and I come out, you know. So we do want to talk about that, because you see here, you know, this was 7 hours ago, and yesterday, you know, you was led to speak on the necessity for, or the importance of spiritual baths, and for you know, spiritual purposes, not just for, to cleanse your body, but to cleanse yourself of anything that can impact you in a negative way. And you understand, it's a necessity that, that's what baptism is. It's a renewal. When you go to the biblical, or take the biblical aspect of it, you even have people that say that, spiritual baths are not good. There's sometimes they can be demonic, but again, that's for certain people that just don't understand other people's practice. So because they have a lack of understanding for it, they attribute something negative to it or demonic to it, when that's definitely not the case. The case is, spiritual baths are, for cleansing negativity. So anything that cleanses negativity can't be associated with anything demonic, and demonic is just what it is. You can't attribute things that you don't agree with as demonic. If it's not biblical, then you can't associate it with anything demonic because it's not in your religion. But this is something worth noting, and I believe that people should, commend him for this. They should actually give him some kind of acknowledgement, for taking this step and making it public, because this symbolizes the ability to change, and it's transformative, not just for him, but for those that may have been a fan of his. Because first and foremost, I'm not a fan of anybody. I'm not a fan of anything, but he does have, a huge following, and he came from the Chicago rap scene, and it has a certain, the music in Chicago, it had so much detriment that came along with it. It had a lot of gang violence casualties that came along with it, and it was plagued with a lot of that, and that's been going on for years. So this is the reason why it has to be, acknowledged that, man, that's a good thing, that's good, and a few months ago, I had took an interest into this particular person because you seen an interview with him and how he was speaking. You knew that he had some sort of, he wasn't, just some random senseless person, but he had some sense, and you started to, take a liking to him, like, okay, I understand you make, your music has a negative message in it, but, behind, that there's still some good in you, you have this tough exterior, but inside you there's still some good in you. So you did take note of, you did see that. And not only that, but he reminded me of one of my childhood friends, Yoshi-iye Bacon. As you see up here, he reminded me of Yoshi-iye Bacon. He put me in the mind of him, and that was my childhood friend that he passed away. He was killed in South Carolina. He went down North Carolina. He went down there with another one of his friends, and they was dealing drugs, and I guess something went wrong down there. Plus, Nakia wasn't no, he was a real raw person, and he may not have known that North Carolina, it's a lot of gunplay and stuff like that goes on down there. So he might have not have been aware of that environment. We was living in Atlanta at the time when we heard the news of what happened to Nakia, so we don't really have all the details, but the way that he was, I'm pretty much sure it wasn't, it's hard to explain that, but yeah, he had put me in the mind of him. And as you see, you support this, as one that is all for change, for betterment. You're one that supports this and for change for the better, and not being weighed down by the former things. So being that he's being baptized, anything in his past, it really can't be held against him, and you will have some people that that states, look, that states negative things, but you're going to have more so people that come and say positive things about this, because like I said, this is something that's this is a breath of fresh air. It breaks up, the monotony of everything that we see online. Oh, little Zay Osama got baptized. Word! So that's something to talk about. We could talk about, this and that, but this is something to discuss and something to acknowledge. And here you have people that say it's negative stuff. That's the past. You understand? You'll have people that's what I mean? You're going to have negativity that's going to come with it. So you can't do good and people say good things, and you can't do bad, and people is going to still say bad things. So you understand? This is just people. It's just people. But one thing that you was going to share was, the biblical meaning of baths, because it has a spiritual significance behind it, and the reason why you want to take it is because it's a cleansing of all of past transgressions, and anything that you've done in your prior to you becoming a new creation. And here we'll have discussion about that, the importance of spiritual baths. And not only that, but this is something that you wanted to speak about. Like I said, you can, even when you go back to, here, this was 7 hours ago. When this was shown to me, like I just seen this. And you see my comment was 3 hours ago. And at the time you get it here, January 3rd at 2:05. But you had intentions on touching on that. Here it's at yesterday at 6:03. Yesterday, you was going to speak about the importance of baptism and spiritual baths, because we don't take time to, you know, deal with inner peace. And how we deal with that inner peace is by stepping away from everything and going into, I wouldn't want to say, you know, establishing a certain mantra, you know, because we're you can do that without taking a bath, but you're going into isolation and being at peace, you know, being in still water and being at peace. This is what I do, and that's how I bring forth a new perspective of whatever it is that I'm dealing with. I go in there, I go into the bath, and then when I come out, I feel, you know, refreshed. You know, so this is just something that you really wanted to point out, you know, and you have this yesterday. This was a screenshot from off of my iPad, you know. So this isn't something that you're piggybacking and saying, well, I seen them do this, and now, you know, this is something that you really wanted to talk about. And being that you see Osama getting baptized, now, you know, this is only something that fuels your necessity to speak about it, you know. So here we'll have, you know, the importance of it, you know. The spiritual baths are important for cleansing the mind, body, and spirit, removing negative energy, promoting healing, fostering spiritual connection, and initiating personal transformation. This is what it all entails. Going beyond mere physical hygiene to offer deep renewal through intention and sacred ingredients like herbs and oils. They serve as powerful self-care rituals for stress relief, releasing blockages, enhancing intuition, attracting positivity like love or wealth, and marking important life transitions, drawing on ancient traditions for spiritual purification and empowerment. So this is the marker. It's the marker of important life transitions. So when you look at the baptism in with Jesus, you would see that was the marker for his spiritual path. So the spiritual bath puts you on a spiritual path, and you know, it's used for spiritual purification and empowerment. So the key importance and benefits: spiritual cleansing removes spiritual impurities, negative energies, and lingering attachments from life experiences. Purifying your aura and energy field. As if you believe in aura and energy fields. Emotional and mental release creates a meditative space to process emotions, relieve stress, and let go of past hurts, bringing inner peace and clarity. Spiritual awakening and connections. It helps you align with divine forces, connects with your inner self, and open yourself to spiritual messages and guidance. Healing and protection. Infused ingredients can offer spiritual armor, promoting overall well-being and alleviate physical discomfort like headaches or chronic pain. You know, and when you're talking about infused ingredients, one of the things that I put in my bath water is Epsom salt, you know, and alcohol. You know, along with the bubble bath, along with the bubbles, I'll put you know, my bubbles and stuff in there. So you know, don't can't skip on the bubbles. But you know, that's for my relaxation. You know, and you'll have other people that use you know, other things when they take baths, and because you know, that's their own their ritual, their own personal ritual. You know, a lot of people they may, you know, associate it with something that is negative, but like I said, it's to relieve negativity and to be made new, and that's when in all spiritual baths is to release negativity, as you can see right here. You know, symbolically marks significant life changes, preparing you for new phases in transition. You know, rites of passage. Intention. A spiritual bath involves setting a specific purpose, attracting love or releasing negativity. That's just the exempla gratia. Ingredients. Uses natural elements like herbs, essential oils, salts, and crystals to charge the water with healing vibration, unlike regular soap and water. You know, that's you know, some people's ingredients. Focus cleanses the soul and mind, not just physical body, leading to profound inner renewal. You know, so that's one of the definitions of a spiritual bath and why they're kind of, you know, important for you to take one. And you can go and do the research on that to see if it's you know, a lot of people don't really have time, you know, because, you know, a lot of people take showers, and normally everything is fast paced, and we don't really get a time to unwind and sit down in the tub and, you know, contemplate on or reflect on, you know, the past. So we just keep going and going, you know. But that's what I do as far as with my baths. You know, I always reflect. So in the Bible, a bath refers primarily to the specific Hebrew unit of liquid measurement, roughly 5.8 gallons or 22 liters, used for wine, oil, and other liquids. But the act of bathing also signifies crucial spiritual cleansing, purification, and renewal, often linked to repentance and baptism in the New Testament. It was a significant standard in trade, temple rituals, and taxation, as seen in Ezekiel and 1 Kings, while spiritually it represents washing away sin, as in David's prayer or the instructions for baptism. You know, so they'll talk about liquid measurements, you know, in Hebrew, and you know, you can get into that. But the biblical examples is Solomon's temple housed large basins like the molten sea that held thousands of baths. Prophets like Ezekiel emphasized using just baths, righteous baths, for fair trade and offerings. As an act of washing, spiritual and physical. Physical rituals, priests bathe as part of purification rites, and individuals bathe for cleanliness, as David did before seeing Bathsheba. Symbolic cleansing. The act symbolized spiritual purification from sin and iniquity, used by prophets and in New Testament teachings. Baptism. In the New Testament, baptism became the central symbol of spiritual washing, representing a believer's identification with Christ's death and resurrection and the washing away of sins. So even here, it's used in ritualistic practice. So for people to identify it with, you know, something negative, it's, you know, kind of like asinine and erroneous. So in Psalms, David's plea, wash me thoroughly from my iniquity. So it's a way for you to be made clean from, you know, past iniquities and past sins. You know, whether you did something yesterday and you don't want to be weighed down by it consistently burdening you, you would wash you would take a bath, and when you come out, you're no longer burdened by whatever it is that was troubling you. So the call to wash and cleanse yourself, remove your evil deeds. You know, so here you have it as a way for you to remove your evil deeds. Again, wash me thoroughly from my iniquity. Ananias instructs Paul, get up, be baptized, and wash your sins away. You know. So this is, you don't. I haven't checked this out, but I did see what he says here. You know, the spiritual baths can be biblical or demonic. Again, just because you don't understand a person's practice, that doesn't make it demonic. That doesn't make it a negative thing because it's not in a religion that you adhere to, but people might have another thing that they adhere to. So you can't, because it may not even conflict with you, but because you're one that simply don't understand or don't want to understand a person's reason of doing things, you label it as demonic. But spiritual baths can be biblical or demonic. The godly way is done with water for cleansing, while the demonic way uses strange water and rituals. And that's what I'm saying. You have to be aware of the religious spirit, because the religious spirit will feed you misinformation, and it would stir up more hostility towards others as opposed to being receptive and inviting of others. So that's the reason why you have to stand clear of the religious spirit. So we understand what the religious spirit is. A religious spirit refers to a negative, controlling mindset that counterfeits genuine faith, focusing on outward rituals, rules, legalism, and self-righteousness instead of authentic love for God and inner transformation. So when a person knows that what you're doing has inner transformation, because the religious spirit is present in them, they would look at that as, it's demonic because it's not in my religion. So that's what a religious spirit entails. That right there. It's characterized by pride, judgment again. This demonic because it's strange water, and it's I don't know what it is. It's performance-based acceptance and lack of grace, often leading to bondage, shame, and an argumentative attitude distinct from the positive fruits of the true Holy Spirit. Yeah, so that's what the religious spirit is. So as you can see, he's evangelist Joshua, and they'll call anything that's not their form a demonic form, and that's not fair. That's not fair to do that. That's judgmental. It's judgmental to do that. Like I said, I normally hear people speak about spiritual baths online, and these normally don't be they don't belong to a certain religion, so you can't identify them as one that you have to stand clear of, because if it's to clear blockages and clear any kind of negative thing that's weighing you down, then sometimes you might have to take their advice into consideration. But even biblically, there was always oils and myrrh, and they were used in significant rituals, for consecration, like the holy anointing oils. So here we have, a certain oil that was used in holy rituals. Um, Healing, purification, worship, frankincense, and crucially for embalming and preparing bodies for burial, symbolizing death and resurrection, as seen with Jesus, who received myrrh as a gift and had it used in his burial. These fragrant substances marked sacred objects and people, honored royalty, and pointed to Christ's ultimate sacrifice in eternal life. So here we do have oils and myrrh and frankincense and things like that being used for ritualistic purposes. No different than a people burning sage. No different from a people holding or using a crystal. So these are not because they are different doesn't mean that they're conflicting. It's just a difference. This is different from that, but it's all for purification purposes, and it's transformative. So beauty and trade. Esther underwent 12 months of beauty treatment with oil of myrrh, which was ritualistic, before meeting King Xerxes, and it was traded as a valuable commodity. The Magi's gift. The wise men brought gold and frankincense and myrrh to the infant Jesus. Myrrh symbolized his kingship, priesthood, and foreshadowed his death and sacrifice. On the Jesus crucifixion, Jesus was offered wine mingled with myrrh and bitter nauseating mixture before his crucifixion, symbolizing suffering and death, which he refused to dull the pain, choosing to endure it fully. Jesus' burial. Nicodemus brought a large mixture of myrrh and aloes to anoint Jesus' body for burial, a Jewish custom to preserve and perfume the body, signifying purification and the promise of resurrection. So, we do have things, like oils and, things of that nature that we use for purification, and it was ritualistically used. So you can't you can't get into a person's perception of why others that are not in their particular religion uses a spiritual cleansing technique and call it demonic, which is not. So 20 spiritual meanings of bathing in a dream: brokenness, purification, new birth, salvation, temptation, shame, deliverance, sanctification, baptism, getting rid of problems, repentance, mercy, forgiveness, but these are spiritual baths and dreams. So if y'all want to go and check this guy's stuff out, y'all could, at y'all leisure. That's up to y'all. But me, I'm definitely not going to check it out, because people be judgmental, and and they have the religious spirit. The religious spirit is definitely not, something that's good. So, bathing is a ritual. Bathing is a profound ritual across cultures and religions, transforming a physical act into a spiritual, meditative, or symbolic practice for purification, renewal, and intention setting, using water for cleansing the body. So that's the thing. When you go in there, you have to go in there with intentions of, shedding the past and renewing your mind and your soul, everything has to come out anew. You have to go in there with that intention, like, all right, well, whatever happened yesterday happened yesterday. I ain't even beat off of that. I ain't worried about it no more. So when you come out feeling refreshed, and that's one of the things that Zay Osama has stated. He stated that here.
From death to life. You are a new creature on this earth in the name of the Spirit. Jesus is right here with you. You are blessed and baptized. Praise be to God.
That's good, man. That's real good.
That was a different feeling.
See? That was a different feeling, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a different feeling. Like he felt different just by that little process. Whether it's people baptizing you or you taking the time out to baptize, to go into the bath yourself and go into a meditative state and then coming out anew. It's going to be a different feeling. You feel less burden. You feel less weight on you. And I would like for him to keep this up. I would like for him, to be embraced by the church and like for real, like all the Christians should hit him up like, yo, son, and give him a lot of encouragement and a lot of advice, on how to restrict himself from being profane and being slow to anger and being more compassionate and because we do pick up certain things and still, because our former self is still present, some bits and pieces of our former self still be present, that can seep back in, and we would have to shed everything, everything, the way that we talk, the way that we respond to certain things. We would have to shed all of that. So, I felt that this was very impressive, and it is very inspirational. Because this is change.
Caps are supposed to have crab legs tucked in.
This is change, and the more you see change, the more there'll be change. So, you would want to use this particular person as, a means to reach others, especially young people that was misguided. You can bring them into the light and steer them in the right direction, because that's what I actually, what I mean. And this, like I said, when you go even to my page, you'll see that if you type Zay in, this isn't somebody that I have no. I mean, this is from November 6th, 2025. So I did, and this is from December 16th. When you heard about him crashing out, and then you have this. I even spoke about this particular video before. So you did. This is somebody that you really wanted to see transform and change. You didn't hate you, bruh. You wanted to see him do better. You took an interest in him. So for you to see that he's been he's taking steps to be transformative. This is like, yo, like you can't go. I'm not a fan of his music, and none of it. He has a lot of music. I don't listen to none of his music. This is the only thing that I know from him. So here is where you seen that, he has some you're able to sense people, even through videos, even through the way a person might speak to you on the phone, even the way a person might respond to you in a post, you're able to sense certain things. So I sense that, I mean, he's not a bad person per se, It could be, a product of, just being raised a certain way, but you did have hope for him. This said like Whack 100. I'm definitely not a fan of Whack 100. Whack 100 is like he's a troll. He trolls people, and he tries to get under people's skin. And he tried to get under Osama's skin, and it was going to lead into something. It was going to escalate into something that was, a violent thing, and you didn't want it to get there. So you took a interest in that. Like, hold on, let me see what's going to go on, and you seen that Whack 100. He stood down because, like I said, Zay Osama's not a pushover. He's not one that is you can take advantage of him, or you can cheat him. But coming up, you're not you understand, you're not innocent, but you still maintain your who you are underneath that exterior. So you seen that. It was like, come on, bro, you want to see what's, and then to come online and see that, then you kind of like, that's good. God is good. This is how God touches people. God, and something may have not sit right in his spirit, and he might have not been able to you get what I'm saying. But yeah, but I would like to see Christians be embracive of him, of this act. I would like to see that, not just a clout chaser that normally jump online at everything and just wait to feed you something so you don't get the spirit of it. Because, like I said, it's a different way for the people to get it and receive it, and it be transformative than something that's just something to talk about, and because some people do that. Some people talk about the music industry, and these are people that look for any and every opportunity to have a topic to discuss, and there's no transformation in you receiving any kind of insight or wisdom from these people. If you don't understand what I'm saying, then I don't know if I can elaborate a little bit more on that, but I believe you understand what I'm saying. It's people that are, fishing for content to keep their content up, as opposed to them being one that's bringing light and change to people. If that makes any sense, But like I said, you wanted to, elaborate, because there's people that wonder, like, how come we can't, get to, or destroy a certain person, because they're constantly renewing themselves. They take baths, and those baths are not just, physically cleaning baths. They're spiritual baths. They have spiritual significance behind them. So every time I come out of the bath, I'm made anew. So that's why, you're not weighed down by anything, any past transgression. You're able to keep renewing yourself, keep rebirthing yourself over and over and over again. And some of us don't need, um, a people to baptize us, because we go in there with the intentions of coming out anew, and that's what it's about, the intentions of coming out of there anew, or a new creation, so you're not the same person, when you go in the bathroom and you come out of the bathroom, then you're not the same person. You feel a lot, you feel great, and not only that, but like I said, you maintain your youth, and there's good kids and there's bad kids. So all kids aren't good kids just because they're kids. But I'm a candy eating kid, and those kids are always happy, So you're always in a happy state, because you can always go back. You can go and get your candy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So this is one of the things that I do. I eat candy, and you can't be a disgruntled person eating fruity candy. You know what I mean? Mike and Ike, Jolly Joes, Jolly Ranchers, and like these particular candies don't have any kind of pork in it or any animal products, so I can eat these. But I used to like gummy bears, and then you turn the gummy bears around and you find out they got gelatin in them. And that's what I was trying to convey one time, that sometimes it's best to not know, because all knowledge isn't, beneficial to you. Like if I didn't know that gummy bears had pork in it, then I could have kept eating them without, the guilt of knowing that I'm eating something that I don't eat. You try to refrain from eating anything that has animal product in it, and you found that out, so now I can't even eat gummy bears, and it's been a while. So you can't eat gummy bears, and you love them. And like I said, you can't be no disgruntled person going around mean, but you popping in gummy bears. Come on, can't nobody, you're not scaring nobody, bro. You eating gummy bears. What's that you got? Now, ladies, man, come on, bro. So, it's the candy, it attributes to you and your youth, and not just any kind of youth, but a happiness that comes along with it, So sometimes you want to know, some people's secret. That's how you maintain your youth. Candy. Some people can't really eat candy, but just a little bit ain't gonna hurt nobody. Just a little bit of candy. But like I said, this is my history. This is the history that I have of this guy, the interest that you took into him. As you can see, it's all negative. This isn't like little Osama did. And it's all negative. It's all negative except for hair. This one, he was just explaining this, and when he was explaining it, I seen that might be some hope for bruh. Might be some hope for him. But he do remind me of Nakia Bacon. And I got Nakia Bacon tattooed on my chest. That's my like I told you, that's my childhood friend. Like that's my we was real friends. That was my friend, and you seen that he was similar to him, and like I said, Nakia Bacon wasn't. He wasn't nobody to play with, and I seen the same thing with Osama. Like he's not nobody to play with, so I'm not sure why. Whack 100 is playing with him, but I guess Whack 100 didn't know who he was, so he retracted his statement about him, and see, it didn't go nowhere. You know, it could have escalated, but he's understanding. But again, some people have to, you know, be defensive because, you know, if not, then, you know, people would take advantage of you. And now, as you can see, he's found religion. He's found something that's going to prevent him from being him, and that's the reason why I want, you know, other Christians to get to him before, you know, the former him, you know, take over. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? Like, and be more embracive of him and be more of a guide to him, as opposed to letting him just, oh, okay, and, you know, him still being amongst that circle. You would want him to be influential to his circle, as opposed to his circle being influential to him. So if he's not going to change the circle, that circle is going to change him. So everything is about transformation. Either you're going to change for the better, or you're going to change for the worse. Like, again, I told you, my nephew, the moment he got baptized, you know what I mean, they came for him. Like, the wicked came for him. Like, to this day, he's a blood now. He's he's in a gang. And I know my nephew ain't, I mean, come on, dog, I know you. You understand? But because he lived in an environment where there's gangs, he became a part of that environment. So it would have been better for them to had got to him and put him to use in the church, as opposed to letting, you know, the streets get to him. You understand? Like, they could have kept him busy in the church, you know, because the idle mind is the devil's playground. So when you go idle, then the devil gets to you, and now you become a part of, you know, the wicked groups that the devil wants you in. Oh, you a young boy? Oh, okay. You influenced by rap? Yeah. How do you like Dipset? Nah, Dipset. How you like Lil Wayne? I love Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne's a blood. Really? You can be one too. How? See them over there? Yeah. Join them. Hey, y'all, can I be down with y'all? Now you're a blood. You know? So you can't allow them to go astray. You know? So you would have to keep them on a straight and narrow path. So as you seen for yourself, you know what I mean, the man got baptized. Now I would send a whole bunch of, I mean, my congregation just, yo, go follow him, go follow him, go follow him, go follow him. How many people is in your circle? Huh? Hey, Marcus Roger, how many people follow you? Send them to him. Go tell them to follow him and congratulate him for being for getting baptized. Invite him to your church, you know, like you did Bunk Gang or Boot Gang, whatever cuz name is, like you did him. Invite him to your church. You know what I mean? Let him talk about his transformation. Let him give you stories of, you know, the things that he did and how he can only give God the glory for being able to change, because his fate could have been sealed a long time ago in the environment that he came from. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? Be more invitive and receptive, and let them know that, son, this is what I should have been dead. Look at you look at the people. All the people are there's more people supporting me than I had before, you know. So that's basically what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Don't allow him to go astray, you know, or do that in vain. You understand? And not to go backwards. Not to make no more negative music, because we think that we can still make negative music. Like I said, you know what I mean? I used to make music, and you got good music and you got bad music, you know. And for me to come out and make bad music, knowing that you have to stand for, you know, righteousness, as one that stands for righteousness, you can't go backwards. Sure, you could make good music, but you don't, you know, that's not, you know what I mean, that's not your that's not where I'm at. You know, that's not where I'm at. You know what I mean? And I can, you know what I mean? I can even ghostwrite music. Like I said, I can ghostwrite music and I can rap, but you're not one that want to put that energy out, you know, that want to convey any kind of music. But, you know, from as far as my nephew, if my nephew was to separate himself from that, I would focus that attention on getting him into rap and rapping and ghostwriting for him and getting him into the studio and investing in him. But he wants that negative aspect, and you're not one that's going to feed him that. You're not the one that's going to feed him negative music and allow him to make negative music, because that's not, you know what I mean, that wouldn't be a right thing. It wouldn't be righteous, and yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. This is history. This is my history with this is I checked him out maybe 5 times, and you didn't write him off. From here, you didn't write him off. You look at the name of this, you know what I mean? I didn't write him off. You know what I mean? He had problems with his own family, and you like, yo, bruh. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like you said, you see what I'm saying? No, but yeah. Like I told you, this is real good. This is real good, and I just wanted to share that because you did you wanted to speak about the importance of spiritually cleansing yourself, your mind, and not just your body but your mind and your soul and your spirit. Because people are weighed down by a lot of things and don't know how to unburden themselves, and that's how you would do it. You would do it through a cleansing process with the intentions in your mind, putting it, starting at the mind first, and then cleansing the body. Like I said, that's with anything. Whether it's a drug that you're trying to overcome, alcohol, sex, whatever it is, you cleanse yourself. You go into the water and you come out of it. If you don't have a bathtub, because a lot of apartments come with showers only nowadays, you can do a soak. You can soak your feet, and you can cleanse yourself that way. It's the intentions. It's the intention that you're going into it with. The intentions. So I just wanted to share that. Because it's something that that was laid on me, that you should allow people to know that you can always unburden yourself, and cleanse yourself from anything negative or anything that's weighing you down. And that's one of the things that I do. And it's the reason why I don't hold any grudges. I don't take anything to heart that it shouldn't affect me. You know what I mean? And that's how I maintain my youth. You know what I mean? I keep being made new. You understand? I keep being made new. And the other day I was in the Dollar Tree, and I was going to get some hair dye. I said, man, I'm gonna wear my beard like it's a badge, man. I'm not dyeing my beard. to appear younger. Why would I want to appear younger when I feel younger? I mean, I already feel younger. Some people can appear younger, and but they feel older. But I feel, like I said, I feel good. And at least my hair up top, at least my hair up here is not gray. I don't get any gray hair up top. You know what I mean? Which is, even if I did, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all. Because I'm not trying to look young. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to look young. But I feel, what I mean, lively all the time. And, you attribute that to, your regimen, what I normally do. And like I said, I don't let anything weigh me down. And I just keep renewing my mind and my spirit. My spirit stays the same. You're always in good spirit, even when you're in bad spirit. Even when things are bad around you, you're still in good spirit. So I liked it. I'm telling you, y'all don't know how much I liked it to see this, man. How much I like this, and this is a blessing for me to see this. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not even, if you can see how much of his stuff that I've seen, I'm not a fan of his, but you did have hope for him. You did have some, what I mean? You did, like I said, I started to respect him as I associated him with Nakia Bacon. Like, yo, he kind of reminded me of Nakia Bacon. Kind of looked like him. He could be. I mean, yeah. But that's good. Like I said, a lot of people should be more supportive of him, and I'm sure he's probably not gonna make gospel music, but I mean, y'all could be more supportive as opposed to him getting to others and allowing them to know that change is possible. And if you wanted to follow his path, or other people's path, as long as it's something that you're doing that's going to be for the better, you know what I mean? And once you change for the better, you can't hold a person's past against them. You understand? That's the same thing I said about, Little Dirk. Once Little Dirk had made his transformation to Islam and started to dress Islamic and being on the in masjids and stuff like that, he should have stepped away from anything that had something to do with negative music. But he kept it going. I mean, he kept talking negative music and negative this and negative that, and it caught up with him. You know what I mean? So we don't want him to go down the same path that Little Dirk went down. We don't want him to do that. We would rather see him be a beacon of hope for others, and an instrument of change for others as well. Like, yo, son, we would have never thought Cuz would have got baptized. Man, Cuz got, what the hell am I doing with myself? Let me go and get baptized. You understand? So, and y'all don't know how many people or how many souls y'all could fish. So you reel the big one in. I mean, you reel the big one in. You then throw it back in there and try to catch bigger ones. You understand? So it's it's something to rejoice about. It's 2026, or it's the New Year's, however people want to say it, but this is something to start the New Year's off with. The transformation. You can see it. I mean, this is something to start it off with. And if you're a Christian, I would get to him before, you know what I mean? People retrograde, or revert back to their old self, because once they change, the new levels, new devils. New levels, new devils. That's how it goes.